Today, we will look into the individuals who have emerged from within the government, military, and other significant positions, whether active or retired, as they continue to pursue truth and transparency regarding the mystery of UFOs or UAPs from 2017 to the present day. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Mysteries with a History, where you'll be taken on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. And with each episode together, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. This conversation is very appropriate for today, and there's a lot of things that we have to cover. And I say that every single week, and I'm probably going to say that for the rest of my life, but we do have a lot to cover. So let me bring in my co-host, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio.
Hey,
Jimmy.
hey, yo. Exciting times, Cristina Gomez.
It is.
Right. I mean, it's like, whoa. But yeah, you're right. And you do say it all the time. I repeat it all the time. We've got lots to cover, lots to get in. And today, covering the last, this is 2023, right? So covering the last 5.5 years into this broadcast is going to be tough. We got lots to cover. It's going to be a lot of fun. But these are exciting times. This is when I don't go, where'd you come up with the idea for this week's show? I'm in the clear on that one. It's crazy. And let me make one general statement here, and people have asked me this over and over again over the years. That day in December of 2017, I was driving my car, and at the time I was on Coast to Coast, and KFI AM 690 is the big talk radio station in Los Angeles and one of the biggest in the world, right? And I'm on that network, I'm on that station, and I listen to it all day long, right? So I'm driving, and I hear the DJ say, the Pentagon has a secret UFO program. Breaking news. We'll get to that right after the commercial. I was like, what? And I'm waiting. It was the longest run of commercials I've ever heard in my life. Pull the car over, and so I didn't wreck it and listen. And I immediately made a U-turn. I drove straight to the studio. Was reading everything and went live with Fade to Black. And it was that big of a deal, right? And the days of disclosure, we were calling it, and it was, and ever since then, what a crazy ride we have been on, all to wrap up, not to wrap up, but the bookends here are that, which we'll start with today. And of course, Wednesday, July 26th, we're going to have a UFO hearing with the House Oversight Committee live on television. And everybody, I made the announcement earlier today. I will mention it every day until Cristina and I are going to do what we did for the last hearing. So we are going to stream the hearing. We will have our live commentary. Yes, I'm sure there will be popcorn. And we will have the very spirited chat room going down. And we're going to do all of that with you. And we can do this together as a community. And that will be for the entirety of the hearing next Wednesday. I'm very excited. I mean, and Cristina, before we go backwards and start at the beginning, and let's just start at the top and work down like we should and you want to. How excited are you?
This is a very unique hearing. And the reason to why we're having this conversation today, we're really looking at UFOs post 2017, because there's so much has happened in the last 5 years when it comes to the conversation of UFOs hitting the public, hitting the media at such a strong force than ever before. And all of this since 2017 has been leading up to these UFO witness hearings that are going to take place July 26th at 10 a.m. EST. And as Jimmy had mentioned, we're going to be streaming it right here on this channel. Now, what's unique about this one is that we've only received one that was last year in 2022, and that was the first one in 55 years. We had to wait another year to get these UFO witness hearings, and we're going to name those people a little bit later. If you've seen it online, you already know who I'm referring to. We're also going to go into their background as well. But this is going to be very interesting just because last year's hearing was a circus. It was very unorganized and no one had strong questions except for Gallagher. He was the star of the show. But in this next one, it's going to be run by Tim Burchett and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, and they have a better background when it comes to the history of UFOs. So it should be a better conversation. I'm optimistic. And the reason to why I'm optimistic, more so than anything, is that they are bringing this conversation forward. Do I imagine them to have smoking gun evidence to blow our minds? Really? No. But this is a really, really big step forward, and more people are taking this conversation seriously. While the government is looking into this, and we're going to cover all the things since 2017, disclosure at the end of the day, in my opinion, is not going to come from the government. It will come from the people. But having these conversations inspires people to look into this and to do their own research and to ask bigger and better questions.
Yes, and you're right about that. The three witnesses that will be speaking. Well, let's just go ahead. We've got Ryan Graves, we've got David Fravor, and we've got Dave Grusch.
That's right.
And the focus this time around, Audrey Carson, and then we'll actually start the show.
We're already starting it, but we're not starting it from the beginning. We're doing the bookends. We're going from the backwards and then making our way up.
Yeah. Fair enough. You're being too kind. But so with those three witnesses, this isn't Bray and Moultrie, right? No. That are there to do the dance. These three witnesses, we know their story. And for the UFO community, okay, we've picked this apart and looked at it from every angle with these three. So for us, we understand that. We probably know most of what they are going to say.
Right, but you and I in the community, but not your average person.
That's the point, right? For those out there that may have heard or they are going to get the meat of the matter. They're going to hear. They may have. Do you know how many people, if you really think about it, have heard David Fravor's Tic Tac story and the Nimitz? Well, in our community, we know everything, right? We know all the names behind it. But let's talk about the rest of the world and the rest of the United States, right? This will be a first-time experience for them. Ryan Graves and what he went through. Does the rest of the world in the United States know about Dave Grusch and Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and who is involved with all of this, and Ross Coulthart, and have they seen? Probably not. So that's why this is a very, very, very big deal. And of course, Tim Burchett has been very vocal, and he wants this focused. He wants this out to the public. This is a whole different consideration on how this hearing and those witnesses are going to be dealing with things. This is a different situation. This is very exciting.
It is. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, hit the like button. It lets us know that you're enjoying the show, but it also lets YouTube know that you want more transparency when it comes to UFOs. So let's go ahead and lay down a foundation of the history of the modern time UFO conversation post 2017. How did this all really start? I'm going to share my screen here because we're going to get straight into the article that blew the lid off for the public. And this article was written by Helen Cooper, Ralph Blumenthal, and Leslie Kane, and it was published in December of 2017 by the New York Times, and it was titled Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program. Now, a lot of people that have been in the field for a handful of years, many of you can remember when this article came out. Jimmy, you had mentioned your story. I've been asked this question. What were your thoughts when it came out? Let me tell you this. I was still in high school. Did I care about UFOs to this extent? No, I just wanted to graduate. That was about it. I just wanted to pass my classes and go home. But it wasn't until actually years later did I come across this article and really feel the weight, feel the significance of how important this is. Now, you might think, okay, people always mention this, but maybe I haven't read it or I'm not really too familiar with the content inside of this article. Why is it so important? Well, one of the biggest things about this was that the article provided an official confirmation from the US government about the existence of a secretive program dedicated to studying UFOs. This acknowledgement was crucial as it dispelled skepticism and speculation surrounding whether such programs existed and highlighted that the government was actively investigating these phenomena. Now, the article also presented credible insider accounts from former Pentagon officials, including Lou Elizondo, who was the head of ATIP. And these testimonies lent credibility to the existence of the program and its investigations into UFOs. Now, Jimmy, we've read a handful of articles that have been written about UFOs, but it doesn't really hold a lot of weight. It's a few stories here and there, it's a few sightings. Great, amazing. Of course, we love them. But this article was different because they were bringing in testimonies. They were bringing in the head of ATIP, Lou Elizondo. And that was the first time, one of the first times we really got to know this person, know his name. And then we began to see him all over the news on every single podcast so that he was able to share the information that he could provide without infringing on any NDAs. But the article hinted at the possibility that some of the observed UAPs could be linked to advanced technology beyond the capabilities of known human aircraft. And this raised intriguing questions about the origins of these objects and the potential existence of extraterrestrial intelligence or highly advanced human-made technology. So, Jimmy, when you read this article for the first time back in December of 2017, what was going through your mind with all the background and experience that you have in this topic?
Yeah, that's a great question, and let's not forget it was also accompanied with these videos, right? And so I remember. I mean, at the time, I had Fade to Black, during the week, and I had Coast to Coast on the weekends, and I was also filming, and we were, and doing some other stuff, and so suddenly there was a whole pile of things to deal with and to start peeling back. And it was absolutely incredible. Now, there were other events that happened at the same time. And we have this name, Lou Elizondo, John Greenwald of the Black Vault, who is a FOIA expert, now has the tools needed to go and to jump into this and start confirming all of this. And that includes the rest of the community. All of this was happening within days, and it was almost too much to handle. And the questions were raised. Were these leaked videos? Were they stolen videos? Did the government release the videos? Who was responsible for that? And at the same time, Lou Elizondo, this new character, this larger than life character, he's got his resignation letter that he presents. TTSA is formed. They do their live thing. Now we've got Chris Mellon and Jim Semivan and Steve Justice and Lou Elizondo and Hal Puthoff and this team put together, of course, Tom DeLonge and TTSA, and were they responsible for the leaks or the videos? How did that happen? Lou was involved with both of these, and here's the press conference here, the only time you've ever seen Tom DeLonge in a suit.
Yeah.
But it was like almost too much to handle, right? And it was one thing after another. Now, the important point, I mean, at least for me, and it's interesting that you say that you were still in high school, right, when all of this busted out. The media, for the first time, was okay with it. And this was the lead story on CNN, on Fox, on BBC, of course, the New York Times, the Washington Post, any other newspaper, LA Times. Everybody was all in. And that's a very important point. Suddenly, it was, and it happened so fast and so quick. It was, when I say it was almost too much to handle, we had new information that was surfacing every single day. And so anyway, I'm going to push it back to you for a second, because when you have something like a celebrity like Tom DeLonge and his resources, not only a fan base, but financially, and the ability to put all of this together, and the big push towards disclosure, and who he hired for his company TTSA,
Right.
that happening, the release of the videos, the articles, of course, Commander Fravor coming forward, and his statements about what happened with the Tic Tac. All of this was probably from October through, it was around January when the other big news popped. And that was Susan Gausch of the Pentagon spokesperson, steps forward and says the videos are real. Now, she didn't say there's UFOs in the video and those are aliens and they are real. That's not what she said. But probably almost just as important at that point, because we were all asking ourselves, what are these videos? And the Pentagon confirmed that those were real videos.
Right. And the videos that you're referring to are the Gimbal and the Go Fast that were kind of attached to the article that was released by Kane and Blumenthal. And
actually, I don't want you to misspeak. So let me jump in. It was the Tic Tac in the Gimbal that were shown first.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Go Fast was a couple of months later.
Right. Which I'm really happy you brought that up. These were consistent uploads, I would almost say. And then the Pentagon saying these are authentic. And that was a really big deal. This solidified.
It was huge.
Exactly. It was. And so you had the TTSA, the To the Stars Academy, having their hands in pushing these videos forward. Then you had this article that was released in 2017 by the New York Times, which is a pretty prestigious news outlet. And then you're having the Pentagon say, yeah, these are authentic. We're not saying it's alien, because they would never use those terms. But they were saying these are legit. And that was a really big deal. Now, also in 2017, and Cassidy, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Also in 2017, because we still have so much to cover, was when Avi Loeb came into the picture as well. Harvard professor Avi Loeb, where he found Oumuamua coming across our solar system. And he says that's alien tech right there. Now, he was one of the very first scientists to come forward and say something literally so outlandish to the public. He received so much traction. Later on, he did end up creating the Galileo Project, and the slogan is "The skies are not classified," and I love that so much. But all of this was happening in 2017.
It was that October, November, December, January, those 4 months.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm telling you, I remember announcing Oumuamua on Fade to Black and then on Coast to Coast on the news. I got to break that story. And I just remember saying to myself, wait a minute, and TTSA and it was woof, 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 woof. Then the New York Times, that hits. And it was the craziest. Most people don't realize, especially now, what we went through as researchers and hosts and stuff for the UFO community, to have Oumuamua, TTSA, and the New York Times, and those videos and everything else, the entire cast of characters that came forward, all happening at the same time. It was nuts.
And it makes you question, all of these different things are happening, but they all have this connection between one another, being totally different groups of people with different mindsets, different ideas, all happening at around the same time. And it makes you question, was it orchestrated or did it happen naturally? Why was it happening at that point in time in 2017? Because there's been this interest in UFOs since Project Blue Book, if not prior to that. And so there's like this whole, I would almost say, like 50 years of silence where we didn't really get a lot of information. No one was really coming forward that was incredibly credible here. And then all of a sudden, bam, we are punched in the face with one thing after another of things that people were able to sink their teeth into, to do a deeper dive into and say, now this is getting serious. Now, since then, there has been a significant push for, I don't want to say the word disclosure, but I feel like for this sense of opening up the conversation of UFOs and removing that stigma. Because prior to 2017, if you just casually wanted to go out for a drink or go out to a cafe and talk about UFOs, people would give you the side eye and they would look at you like you're out of your mind. Now, or since then, up until now, people are like, yeah, obviously, come on. Like, yeah, UFOs, yeah, they're real. Aliens, yeah, sure, probably. And it's without question. Prior to 2017, people were a bit more hesitant to have open conversations about the things that we talk about on a daily basis, Jimmy.
That's right. They were thinking about it, but they wouldn't talk about it.
That's right.
And that's the difference, because, and you're right about this, because after the New York Times, and I'm watching everybody in the chat talk about the timeline of things. I'm here to tell you right now that period from 2017 until when COVID was March of 2020. So like that 2-year period right there, it was all hard and fast. It was coming very quick. But back to your point, everybody's talking about the timeline,
which is crucial. Maybe we need to talk about these things and attempt to go in chronological order to the best of our ability here, because it's going to lead us up to these hearings that are going to be coming out July 26th. We're going to be streaming it live right here on this channel, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you do not miss that when it goes live at 10 a.m. EST, 7 a.m. PST. Also, if you're enjoying the show so far, hit the like button. It lets us know you're enjoying it. Also tells YouTube, hey, we want some more UFO transparency. Now, Alien Frog, thank you for supporting the channel. It says, also important to note that Gimbal and Go Fast videos end with the UAP still in frame, implying more footage. Rumors are Go Fast makes a 90-degree turn.
Right. Okay. Those are all rumors, but that Alien Frog, thank you for that, because, and we're talking about the UFO since 2017 today. A bunch of stuff started to surface. Rumors like what was it Alien Frog? Was that? Okay. Things like that. Because I had Lou Elizondo on my show many times and many others discussing the 23-minute UFO video that the intelligence agencies had and people had seen. So there was the rumor of that. And was that about to get released? Was that ever going to be leaked? And it wasn't. There was another conversation that was going around that I had with many people that said that they saw this image, that there was a crystal clear photograph of a black triangle coming out of the water, and that it was a perfect picture. Right now, I talked to quite a few people that said they saw the picture, people that were in these circles. I never got a chance to see this picture. That picture wasn't released. Will it ever be released? And with the legislation that's going on, that certainly plays a part of it. The other thing that happened is we had the Go Fast video, and that gets released. And I think that there was the question that I've always had, and I still do, is that, and I have been shown things. I can't comment, but I'll say this. We are looking at, hold on for a second, let me mute my phone. I apologize, everybody, for that rude interruption. Is that we are looking at seconds of footage. Are we under the impression that that is all there is, that there is nothing before and nothing after in each of these videos? Of course not. There's lots of footage. And the other part with this is that the leaked videos, the reason why they're fuzzy is because they're on a ship. The video is being played on a big screen, and somebody is videotaping with their phone. Okay, so we're looking at the second, third generation footage. We're not looking at the direct raw footage of these images. So, and these objects, that is something always there. So how much is in front of and in back of each one of these videos? And you know that those hard drives on those planes are recording all the time. So we haven't seen all that there is. So, and that goes along with everything else that started to roll out after December of 2017, Cristina. It was nuts.
It was. And something that a lot of people had their eyes on, and it was because of all the things that were happening. First off, Santa Claus came really early in 2017 for all the little gifts and goodies that he provided, but it was getting more people interested in this conversation. Since then, the community has grown exponentially. And then 2021 hits, and that's when we receive our first public preliminary assessment that was released by the UAPTF. I'm going to share my screen here just as a visual aid for this, because this is really important. Now, a lot of people were saying this was the worst report we've ever gotten. Let's back it up. How many people have just casually read government reports? Probably less than a handful. And look, I'm in that category as well. Okay. Now, when this report came out, a lot of people's attention spiked. They said the government's taking this really, really seriously. They're hearing what the people are demanding. They went ahead and they ended up releasing a preliminary report, not like the whole meat and potato sandwich hamburger kind of meal, but it was more of just like, here's an appetizer, here you go. And was it eventful? In a roundabout way, yes. If you were to read it exactly how it was written, no. It's probably one of the most boring reports you could ever read for your average person that is not interested in the UFO phenomenon. I get it. I do, I promise. But this was a really big deal because we got one. Now, I would like to kind of read to you what was in it for those that haven't read it. It's still on the ODNI website. You can find it there. But pretty much the UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, released a UFO report known as the Preliminary Assessment, which was prepared and published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI. And the report was a result of a provision in the 2021 Intelligence Authorization Act that required the Director of National Intelligence, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, to assess the nature and progress of UAP investigations. And this report was released on June 25th, 2021. The report acknowledged the limited amount of high-quality reporting on UFOs and the challenges it posed in drawing firm conclusions about their nature and intent, and it focused on a total of 144 sightings, with the earliest incident dating back to 2004. While only one sighting was identified as a large deflating balloon, the majority of the incidents remain unexplained, and 18 of the incidents involved unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Now, the report categorized potential explanations for the UFO sightings into 5 categories. You had the airborne clutter, the natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. government or American industry development programs, foreign adversary systems, and the catch-all category of other. Other in quotes, right? Now, of these categories, the report found that some UFO sightings could be attributable to developments and classified programs by U.S. entities, but it could not confirm that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports. That is really important to mention because it kind of gets addressed a little bit later, actually a few months ago, by the head of Aero, Dr. Kirkpatrick. And we're going to touch on that. But Jimmy, when you read this report for the first time, when it was released in June, I know you were probably refreshing that page over and over again until that report came out. What were your thoughts when you went ahead and read it?
That day, I was on my way to catch a flight. I was filming a movie here in Los Angeles. I was up in San Francisco at the time. And I was literally on the phone with Lou Elizondo, and I'm on my way to go meet Dolan and Linda Moulton Howe and a couple of others. And on the day that this report was being released, and this was part of the subject matter of the film. So obviously I had to read the report, and I was extremely interested in it. But I was on the phone. I'm talking to Lou's like, man, I'm on the way to the Capitol. It's going down in 45 minutes. It's going to be released, and I've got to catch a plane. Finally, I get the report sent to me on my phone, and I'm waiting to board the plane, and I'm sitting with everybody. They have no idea what's going through my mind, right? I'm like, right? So I'm reading, and this is my main takeaway. The other bin.
Right.
And I had to go back and Cristina, I had to go back and like reread. There was so much there, and I could tell by reading it that there were going to be a lot of people that were going, oh man, they didn't admit that ET was, there was no disclosure here. There was, and I didn't read the report that way. I thought it was full of disclosure, and it was interesting. But that other bin, right? We have 144 cases. One we figured out. We got 143 that are sitting here. We know that they're not Russian, they're not Chinese, they're not our adversaries, and they are not us. What? And so therefore we have the other bin, right? That's what I got from the report, and it was gold. And I got what I needed. I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed. I thought the report was on point. Expectations are always very high, but we have to remember one thing about this report before we move on. This report wasn't written for the UFO community. This report wasn't written for Americans. It wasn't written for the United States. It was written for everybody in the world to read. And that includes Russia and China and North Korea and anybody else that has a negative eyes on the United States. They need to get their own assessment out of this report too, as well. So it is very, I'm going to use the word cleverly. It's very cleverly written to make sure that everybody that is going to read it is going to get out of it what they need to. It needs to influence so many. It's not just for the Travis Waltons of the world, right? This report wasn't written for Linda Moulton Howe, Cristina Gomez, or Jimmy Church. This was written for the world. And I was okay with that. So, in a nutshell, I thought it was written the best way that it could be, especially at that time.
I like the optimism, Jimmy. I do. And Dark Sayings, thank you so much for supporting the channel. He writes, great show. So glad to make it live. In your estimation, where does the Order of Quest or Jason Society fit in with all of this sudden transparency from the powers that be? I am not familiar with either of those two things. Jimmy, are you?
I am. And yes. Okay. This is, and especially when it comes to Jason, we are talking about a group of intellectuals and thinkers and creators and inventors that are potentially the best and the brightest in the world. And they do run completely under the radar, and their funding is very dark. And we understand that. And now, how does this play into that? If they are connected, and there are direct connections, and an example for this, Cristina, without spending a whole lot of time on this, because this is a show in of itself, is that could Jason or Quest get a piece of alien technology and backwards engineer it and then turn around and weaponize it? Okay. And now, if there is a connection there, it wouldn't surprise me. If I would almost expect it. And there you go. When we're talking about backwards engineering technology, which is obviously, hopefully, going to be part of this conversation on Wednesday, the 26th, is that cloaking technology, anti-gravity, zero-point energies, these types of technologies that would be how to access and survive a wormhole, how to manipulate time. These are the things that Quest and Jason are always looking at. And could you pull that out? And if you could, if there is a way to cloak an aircraft or a ship or a person, right, and achieve that, would that be weaponized? Yeah. And Jason is connected to DARPA, and it's a DARPA-ish like organization, and they also work together too as well. So that's a long-winded answer for that, but that's I think that's a really, 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 really good point. And that's how smart your audience is. Enough of.
Well, thank you for taking the time to explain that, because I know I'm probably not the only person that is not familiar with it. But going back to this report in 2021, before we move on to our next report that was released, the biggest takeaway from this preliminary report that was released in June of 2021 was that only one out of 144 cases was solved that had a stamp of approval, and they're like, yep, it's exactly this. The rest were still, they had an idea, but they didn't have sufficient amount of data to go ahead and give a sufficient answer to those other 143 sightings. And this is what a lot of people were stressing when this report came out, including myself, including you, Jimmy, because that's how important it was during the time and how important it is today. Now, in January of 2022, as a little snippet, but this one, the preliminary UFO report from the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, released by the Pentagon's Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI, was published on January 12th, 2022. Now, this report was late by like 70 something days. We were promised to have it in 2021. We were supposed to get reports every 6 months. That's what the rumor had said, and that didn't happen. Kind of ish, but this report was very late. We were promised to get it for Thanksgiving. Okay, if it wasn't Thanksgiving, it was going to be in December. December passed by. We still didn't get it. Bam, January hits, and this report was really sneaky. It came in out of nowhere. No one was expecting it. And it shows up, and everyone was thinking, whoa here. What is going on? And this report was mandated by the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act and was created by the ODNI's National Intelligence Manager for Aviation and ARROW as well. And the ARROW is an office within the United States Office of the Secretary of Defense that investigates UFOs and other phenomena in the air, sea, and or space and or land. That's a really big deal that the previous group, the UAPTF and also the AOY MSG, didn't really emphasize on. Did we know that they were looking into this? We can assume here, but it was ARROW that came forward and said, we're looking at everything. We're looking at UFOs, USOs, everything in between. And that was really fantastic. Now, this report covered a total of 510 cataloged UAP reports gathered from various intelligence community agencies, military intelligence offices, the Federal Aviation Administration, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the Department of Energy, and NASA. So they had a lot more to deal with. Now, these reports were submitted by agencies involved in the report and branches of the U.S. military as well. And the majority of these reports were gathered from the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force personnel who reported them through official channels. Now, out of the 510 total UAP reports, the ODNI assessed 366 reports that had been newly identified since ARROW's creation. Among these, 26 were categorized as uncrewed aircraft systems or drones. 163 were attributed to balloons or balloon-like entities, and 6 were found to be airborne clutter, such as birds or airborne plastic shopping bags. However, Jimmy, here's the however. There were 171 reported UAP sightings that remained uncategorized, according to the report. Now, some of these uncategorized UAPs appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and required further analysis. But the big thing that a lot of people were stuck on, again, as myself, was the category of balloon-like entities. That was pretty weird.
Yes. Now, and this is where I'm going to say this. Cristina, you're courteous, you're kind, you're gentle, you're inquisitive, you have a big heart, but you're leaving the real stuff on the table. So let me take this over. The point to all of that is there were classified versions of these reports. This was the watered down version of both of these reports that were released to the public. What was in the classified side of the reports? That's number one. Number two, all of these agencies were mandated, and that includes the Air Force. Every branch of the military, the 19 or so odd number intelligence agencies in the United States were all supposed to give up what they got, hand it over to the UAPTF, hand it over to Aero, and get these assessments done. The number of 144 cases in the first report, come on. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. And they only looked at a certain window, by the way. And they were only looking at military, by the way. And then it comes to Aero. Who is in control? Who is twisting the arm of the NSA to get information out of it? They don't give a crap. They don't care about Aero. There's nobody's going to get arrested. You know, are they going to give up what they have? The NSA, the NRO, the CIA, the FBI, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Air Force hasn't been giving up anything. As a matter of fact, no branch of the military, nobody. The Navy, that stuff was leaked. Right? That stuff was taken. Susan Goff wouldn't have just stepped up to the microphone one day and said, by the way, we got these videos. We're going to hand them out to the press corps. No, it was out of their control. And that was the problem with Aero. Suddenly we go from 144 cases to now we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of cases. And now it has been since divulged, and we will continue to hear this, that they are dealing with thousands of cases, that they are understaffed. And I will go back and I think that most of these cases that are being given to them, all right, this is stuff that is coming towards them, but it's not the NSA, it's not the NRO, it's not the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Army, the National Guard, the Space Force, right? None of that is coming in directly and voluntarily. And there isn't any enforcement of that. We don't have a UFO/UAP czar to go and to make sure that this is done. I'm telling you right now, with all of this, and this is the frustration that Tim Burchett and certainly Senator Gillibrand and Marco Rubio was going through this now too as well. These agencies don't care. They don't. The CIA, for so many years, they ran on a secret budget. You didn't know. They were able to do whatever they wanted. The NRO, the NSA, which is bigger than the CIA, both of them, huge intelligence operations. They run on a different agenda than we do. They run under different laws than we do. And they just don't care. By and large, the NSA, let me back up for a second. Do you remember when it was revealed that the NSA was surveilling every citizen of the United States, right? And you get this thing, and the uproar, right? Oh, how long has that been going on? Well, since 2000 and September 11th. Really? Tapping our phones? Every text message that we send, our locations, the connections on our friends list, right, on Facebook. You're collecting what data on every citizen of the United States? And had that not have happened, if we didn't have a whistleblower to bring, it would still be continuing. They run on their own laws. So when it comes to, they don't care. When it comes to getting information about ET out of these agencies, that's the most difficult task of all. And that's why I think that the House and the Senate, Cristina, are so shocked and surprised about what they're hearing, because they have an intelligence briefing every day. The file folders are there. They come in, they open it up. What's going on around the world, right? And suddenly, we've got flying saucers in our possession. We haven't heard about this before. We've got alien bot. We've got what? Tic Tac and the Nimitz. What's going on here? They are completely blindsided about it. And that's one of the things that Tim Burchett is so upset about. So that's it. I'll get off of my soapbox, but like I said, I appreciate your objectivity and the way that you're approaching this. But in the reality of it, the task of squeezing this information out of agencies that run their operation, their method of operation, their method of doing business is not communicating with each other or with you. They don't. They just don't do it. And now I'm with the subject of UFOs and trying to get this ET contact information out of the NSA? Really? No, I just don't see how it's going to happen.
You bring up some really great points that needed to be addressed, and I'm really glad that you went ahead and did that, because you and I, we have different perspectives. You bring in things that I don't. I bring in things that you don't. This is why we have these very interesting and or intellectual conversations, because we bring in two different standpoints. And looking at this report, the second report that we received, you're right. There was a watered down version, the one that we got, and a more legitimate version that was provided behind closed doors. This is nothing new. This also happened with the UFO hearings that we got in 2022 as well. There was a public one and there was a private one. And they made that very, very evident. If anyone had watched it, you can find it here on this channel, where one congressman would ask a question and they would say, "Oh, that's classified," or "I will mention that to you in the next briefing behind closed doors." I was so irritated when I heard that. But that hearing that we received last year was the first one we've received in 55 years since Project Blue Book. Now, during that hearing, Pentagon officials informed lawmakers that extraterrestrial life is not the cause of what the government refers to as UAP. Specifically, I am referring to Bray and Moultrie, and I'm going to pull up that image here. For those that may not know who these people are, hey, no worries. That's what we're here for, to provide a foundation to answer your questions. So let's pull this up right here. And you and I, we watched this happen live.
Let's see. They are frickin' frack. There they are. And okay, I'm sorry. I rudely interrupted you. What was, for me, I'll make this super quick. What I thought was so great about this hearing is that Andre Carson and those on the committee, Tim Burchett was in the audience, by the way. He wasn't part of the committee.
And he was flustered, by the way.
He was angry. Is that the committee itself genuinely, from the introductions by Andre Carson throughout the hearing, tried to keep the focus on ET. Are we talking about ET visiting this planet? ET, up there, right? And Bray and Moultrie kept trying to swing this back to a defense issue and a Chinese-Russian national defense issue. And the committee members weren't about that. And one of the committee members, going back to the classified mention of the report, said, "Okay, all right, so we're not going to talk about ET now, but are we going to talk about ET this afternoon in the classified briefing? I'm here to talk about ET." You know, and that was the interest is there from the House.
That's right. And there were some great questions that were asked, some not so great, but you're right. Bray and Moultrie, these guys right here that we're seeing on screen, they tried very hard to skirt away from difficult questions or questions that were directed to ET. What their narrative was, and you can see this if you watch it, which you can find it right here, is they were trying to push by saying, "We don't know what it is, but it's not alien." And and I would like to state this, and it's probably going to make people a little upset here, but there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that, because let's say it is extraterrestrial. You can't control that. And that is a really big fear when it comes to the government. If it cannot be controlled, it is a threat. Therefore, we have the threat narrative when it comes to UFOs and dealing with airspace security. That is the take that the government is taking when it comes to the research of UFOs. If everything was handy dandy, left, right, center, stars and sprinkles, there wouldn't be any funding for it. But if you have this negative narrative of they are dangerous, they are a threat, let's throw in the millions and bajillions of dollars. Yes, now it makes sense.
That's right. The possibility of a threat, which is even scarier than a threat, right? You go into the true unknown.
Right.
You're absolutely right about that. But I also agree with that. You don't want to be caught. We don't know, right? But you definitely don't want to be caught off guard. For the defense of this, we've got enough. I mean, we've got open borders. And when I say open borders, I'm not talking about Texas. I'm talking about the skies. Talking about you can walk across or float into or have access to. We have issues with security in this country from every direction all the time. And one of those is from the skies too as well, right? And we have to pay attention to that. We have to. So that's it. But that doesn't answer the question that everybody wants the answers to. Are we dealing with ET visiting this planet? That's what we want to know. The threat narrative, we need to learn more. We've got to do that. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing. What we want to know is ET here, right? And that's what this hearing this Wednesday is going to be all about.
And that's the big difference between the one that we got last year and the one that we're going to get this year. Hides, thank you so much. It says Experience Night on the Discord server, my Discord server, an hour after the show. He provided the link. Thank you for that, Hides. Go ahead and do that. Or you can speak to 2,000 other like-minded members on that Discord server. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and everything in between. In this case, for this particular night...
Tell this old man what's Discord?
Discord is just a place to have conversations with people from all over the world. It's open 24/7, and in this case, for my Discord server, there are 2,000 other like-minded people. And there's so many different rooms where you can share different things that are specific to that room. There's also a voice chat room where Hides had created an event for Experiencer Night. So. Thank you, Hides,
so
for
you
that.
Can go and you can talk too?
Yeah, you can talk or type, depending on the room that you're in, of course.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like
it's pretty
fun.
Cool. It is fun. It's a very safe, friendly place where you can share anything that you like. Now, moving on back into this hearing, before we get into our next one, there has also been ongoing interest and investigations into UFOs by the U.S. government. We are aware with Project Blue Book that took place from 1947 to 1969-ish, cataloging thousands of UFO sightings. However, it concluded that UFOs did not come from other worlds and could be explained by natural phenomena or hoaxes. That's why Project Blue Book ended, because they were like, no, everything is fine. It's not actually aliens. And that's why there was this silence for about 55 years, 50-ish years until 2017, where this all spiked and sparked up once again. People's interest began to grow after that New York Times article in 2017. But additionally, the Pentagon launched ATIP back in 2007 to investigate the latest round of UFO sightings during that time frame. And this program worked alongside an aerospace research company and investigated sightings by Navy pilots. Now, in all of this, and with this particular hearing that took place last year, what I'm really upset about for this hearing is that at the exact same time this was taking place, there was the trials with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Millions of people were watching that trial that could not feed their life in any way aside from drama and potential curiosity. While this conversation right here, this UFO hearing, while it was really a circus, it was something that was being taken seriously by the government, where congressmen were asking serious questions. But it only had a few thousand views when it went live versus that trial whatever that
Right.
had in the millions of views, and I was really, really upset when I saw
Were
those
you
stats
upset?
and that
Were
it
you
happened at the
upset?
exact same time.
You were upset. Yeah, you're right about that, though. You know, here we have potentially, and let's, here we have potentially, right, the biggest news in the history of the world, right? So, what is more interesting to you, that or the Kardashians? And that's the world that we live in, you know. And going back to Tim Burchett, Tim Burchett sitting out in the audience for this hearing, and he is his temperature is rising, right?
Yeah.
His blood is boiling. When the hearing was over, he marched out, got in front of the cameras, got in front of the media, and was extremely angry and was saying things that I've never heard an elected official say before, such as, our government is lying to us.
You would
This hearing,
never hear
right,
that.
ever. This hearing was a sham, you know, and that's the guy that's chairing this next hearing. All right, so let's not lose sight of that. Tim Burchett, when he said, you remember the go back to that shot. There's Tim right there. I think he's a really cool dude. Go to the shot prior to that with the video. Okay, so they decide to show this, you know, a UAP video, and I was like, oh man, this is great. This is great stuff. And they couldn't hit the pause button.
Oh.
Remember that?
Oh, that was so painful.
They couldn't hit the pause button, and to have the members of the committee go, "What did we just see? What was that? Can you rewind it?" Completely unprepared. You would have,
or was it staged? Was it planned to get to nullify the significance or the seriousness of the conversation? And that's the questions that you have to ask when you're dealing with the government. Is everything as it's perceived to be, or is there a hidden intention behind it? And that's where my mind was with this particular scene when they couldn't pause it. I was furious, but at the same time I had this mindset, wait, hold up. Is this meant to make people lose interest and move away and not finish the hearing? Or was it, I mean, are they really that unknowledgeable when it comes to technology? I'm going to go with the first one, because when it comes to like your basic tech, your average Joe should know the very basics, like the pause button.
You're right
Okay.
about that. You're right about that.
And Obi-Wan, thank you so much for that. Love the show. Jimmy has always helped my mind in times of stress. And now Cristina, thank you. That's so nice. I'm so happy that we're able to alleviate that for you and get ourselves stressed with these conversations. So thank you for that.
And the point that you make is so well taken. A 5-year-old can edit a video on a cell phone and get it up on TikTok, right?
Oh yeah.
And this is not an issue. So in these days, when you are doing a presentation in for the House, you're in chambers, and you're going to roll a video. That video, you need to have your still frames. It's all just one video. And you have the video, you have the slow motion section, you have the still frame capture, you have it sped up, you have it slowed down, you show it again, end of video, you run it, and you hit play. You don't show a clip like that has 2 frames of an object in it and then not know what you're doing. And that's what they did. And it was the most frustrating thing. And in the end, really, what convincing, what was presented to either side that helped from that video? Did it help Bray and Moultrie help diffuse this and point the fingers at, you know, weather balloons and China and Russia? Did the committee members learn that we have UFOs in the skies and our pilots are filming them from the cockpits? That video didn't serve either side, and it was embarrassing. So I don't think we're going to experience that this Wednesday.
I am praying that we don't, because it was a mess. Now, with Tim Burchett and with Anna Paulina Luna, it should be a different story altogether, because again, they have more knowledge. Tim Burchett has been very vocal about his interest in UFOs, how there has been this cover up when it comes to the government and the topic of UFOs. Now, I'm not too familiar with Anna Paulina Luna, as she just got her position as a representative in Florida in 2023. So she is relatively new. I haven't heard her talk about UFOs, but I think it is fantastic that we have someone else backing up Tim Burchett here to take this conversation seriously. I have watched, she did actually provide something this morning with Tim Burchett talking about this hearing that is going to take place July 26th. And she's very well composed. She knows what she's talking about from the paper that she was reading, that I'm going to assume that she wrote herself here. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I can dig this. I'm ready to see what goodies they have in store, what questions they're going to ask, how they're going to go ahead and attempt to conduct this hearing with 3 whistleblowers that you and I are familiar with, in the sense of you and I as in the community, the UFO community. But your average person, yeah, they're like, who are these people? I vaguely heard the name, but I'm not really sure what their background. And I would really actually like to touch on those people as we continue forward, because this hearing is happening in a few days. This is huge. So let's start off with one of the people that's going to be speaking, and that's Ryan Graves. Now, he is pretty popular in this community because he and his squadron had encountered UFOs while they were flying in the sky. He has been vocal about this. He has spoken out to mainstream media outlets. He has said that the military needs to have better ways to handle these situations, but also for pilots to be safe to tell what they saw, because we've covered this before, Jimmy, but like I would say probably 2019 and prior, if anyone has a military status or any kind of clearance, if you talk about the paranormal, UFOs, things like this, you're going to be having a desk job so fast. Your clearance would be revoked pretty quickly. Now, since then, it's been different. More people are able to come forward. A great example of this is obviously Ryan Graves right here, Lou Elizondo, and so many others, where they're able to more confidently speak out about things that are classified as weird, mysterious, fringe, so on and so forth. But in this case, what really grabbed my attention about Ryan Graves in particular was one encounter that he had, or that one of his squadron had, excuse me, was that when they were flying in the sky, they saw an orb type UFO, but in the inside was a cube. And I was like, whoa, that is crazy. Is it alien tech? Is it man-made tech? Just super advanced? We don't know. He doesn't know. He wasn't provided that information. All he knows is that one of his squadron confided in him and told him the sighting of this strange spherical thing that had a cube inside.
Yeah, he I had him on my show. It was a great interview. And I do remember Ryan and I talking before the show, and he goes, Jimmy, you know, I was hesitant with coming on Fade to Black because I like you and I like the show. But man, the pressure that's coming at me from every direction, and every time I do that, and I know that you're going to ask me the questions that need to be asked, and I'm going to want to answer them. I said, look, let's just. But there was a lot of pressure on Ryan. So when he came on Fade to Black, oh, man, see, I didn't hit my cough button in time. When he came on Fade to Black, the one thing that he wanted to stress is that this was going off of the East Coast, the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area, that stretch, Washington, D.C., down to Georgia, Philadelphia. There's a big chunk of Atlantic Ocean out there. And so they have these zones, they have these blocks, and they fly out and they're doing these training missions. And what they were getting were these massive amounts of radar returns and in the hundreds. And this was going on every single day. And there were lots of sightings. Ryan himself never saw it, but one of his crew members says that the two planes were flying side by side, and the spherical object went between the two planes. And the planes are close together, right? Flew right between, and they, whoa, did you see that? And they got a really good look at it. And you're right, it was a clear sphere surrounding what appeared to be a cube. And now, was this all of the stuff that was going on out there? Don't know. But what is it doing in our skies? I don't know of that technology. And certainly a pilot like Ryan and others in the Navy and the Air Force, and the Marines and the Army see things all the time. And it's their job to identify other aircraft. That's what you do. You take tests on this. The outline, the silhouettes of things of every aircraft that is flying today. That's just part of being not only a military pilot, but a commercial pilot as well. That's where they saw this sphere. That was off of the East Coast. So his testimony is important. But what I want Ryan to do, he's held a lot of stuff, confidentially. And some of the witnesses with Ryan, and I understand this, may still be flying. Right? They may still be in the Air Force. They may still be in the Navy. And they don't want to, when you're a pilot, you don't want to get grounded. Right? You just don't want that. So I understand that. But is this an opportunity for Ryan? Because, Tim Burchett is going to say, and I don't think he's going to mess around. Okay. But who was the pilot? I want him in here. Where's the data? I want the data from that day. Where's that's the part that for Ryan, he's up against. So we'll see how far he takes it on Wednesday.
It'll be something very interesting to watch. And again, why this hearing in particular is going to be unique from the previous one. I would like to state that with Ryan Graves, the stories that were mentioned to him were between 2014 and 2015. When it comes to the UFO conversation, that's pretty darn recent. Now, he has also advocated for greater awareness of the UFO issue and has called on government agencies to investigate UFO sightings to ensure national security and air safety. He is the chair of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics UAP integration. And while the extent of Gray's involvement is in UFO research beyond his personal experience is not explicitly mentioned, it is clear that he has been actively raising awareness and advocating for further investigations into UFO sightings. Now, he's also has had an influence on policy and opinion within the military regarding UFOs as well, which is really important. And that's what is unique about him compared to other pilots that have had UFO sightings. Not only has he come forward and told stories that have been provided to him by a squadron, but he's doing something about it. And that's a really big deal that we really don't hear too often from people. They usually tell their stories and that's it. You're right. In this case, he is an activist, and that's something that makes him stand out from the rest and something that catches a lot of people's interest. Now, another person to mention is David Fravor. Now, he is very famous for the Nimitz encounter that took place in 2004. We're going to speed through these because many of you are probably very familiar with these stories, but for those that aren't, we got you. So with David Fravor, he came forward in a 60 Minutes show And he is sitting with Alex Dietrich, and they are telling the story of what happened. That during their time practicing over the water, they didn't have any missiles on them. They didn't have any weapons on their planes, and they see what he defined as a tic tac that was just hovering in the air, which blew his mind because our craft cannot do that. It has to move in order to be in the air. But what he was seeing and what his other pilots were seeing was just this casual little dude just hovering and watching as well. It wasn't just minding its own business, it was watching these other pilots. And of course, there was this fear factor. David Fravor was like, I'm going to go chase it. That's the logical thing to do. And you know what? I would do the exact same thing here. And so he goes ahead and he tries to catch up with it, but he's not able to. It's moving at such high speeds. It's going up and down, making all these erratic changes in direction.
It chases when he's flying in a circle.
That's
it's
right.
staying on its tail. Yeah, he circled around. Alex is above. She's looking down. She's his wingman, but I have to say wing person, right? I have to stay PC. I have to say she's his wing person. And so she's above. She's watching what's going on. And the Fravor's doing this. The Tic Tac is sitting out. He breaks off of that. And when he does that, the Tic Tac, Fravor's words, not mine. Right? That's what he says. He said, gone. Just gone. Blink of an eye. Now, there's another part to this before we move on. Man, I'm looking at the clock. Oh, man, it is this. I believe it was Alex Dietrich that was asked by the Nimitz, the battle group, if she was, I think the word is heavy, right? Are you armed? Right? Do you have missiles ready to go? And she's like, what? If she would have had, I think they had like practice missiles, right? Dummy missiles. No warheads. I could be wrong. I've heard so many versions of this, but if she would have had actual missiles on her F-18, I think they were going to, the battle control was going to have them shoot. And don't think that we wouldn't do it. What did we do a few months ago? That's all we did over the North America was shoot at stuff.
Right. We shoot first and ask questions later. We've heard this so many times, and it's accurate. Now, if they did have weapons on them, they probably would have. I agree with you, and it would be very hard to lean the other way. But in this case, they didn't. They had nothing. So instead, they were just dumbfounded by the situation that was happening. This information came out really not too long ago. So they were sitting on this story for a little under 2 decades until they came forward and mentioned this case. Now, they both went under a lot of heat. People wanted proof. They wanted evidence. And that's just the difficulty when you go into the public and you tell your story. You are going to get criticized. You're going to be scrutinized. And you just have to take it. And that's the horrible part. You got to have really, really, really thick skin because you can't please everyone. For the most part, you might please like 5 people. If you're lucky. For the rest, they're going to be angry. They're going to be demanding. They're going to insult you in so many different ways. And that's why they kind of went quiet after this. Now, I'm excited. I'm also a bit shocked that David Fravor is going to be at this hearing after he's been in the dark for quite some time. He hasn't really done anything public in a while, referring to the Nimitz encounter back in 2004. So when I saw his name, I was thinking, whoa, I didn't see that one coming.
I'm happy that he's there. If we back up when we and then we'll get on to David Grusch, is back in October. This is before the New York Times. TTSA comes out, right, and they do their live press conference, and Chris Mellon is on the stage, and he flashes this picture of this turned out to be a Mylar balloon, right? But it was this silver thing, and he's like, "What is this technology? What is this in our skies?" That's what we're here, and we're going to find out. And I remember I was looking at that picture, and I went, "I've seen that. I've seen that picture." And it went, and then I remembered somebody either sent it to me, or maybe I even found it on my own. I don't remember exactly how it happened. But it was about a year before. Again, we're talking a while ago now, so don't remember the exact dates. But there was this website by a pilot named Paco from the Navy, where all of these Navy pilots would hang out. Just his own little tiny little personal website, right? So there's a group of pilots hang out, trade stories, email, maybe they had a chat room. And but on this website is the story of David Fravor and the Tic Tac, and the picture that they used of the Mylar balloon, the number one balloon, right, with Chris Mellon, TTSA, was from Paco's website and that article. So I was able to go back and look and find the original article on Paco's website. I went back and I went, "Oh, that's right, David Fravor." And then I find out at that time we didn't know about Fravor. The only reason why I found out it was Fravor so early before the New York Times was that picture. And I had gone back when I had read the article. Cristina, this is how crazy this was. There was links in Paco's website, if my memory is correct, that Fravor was part of a reality show, right, called Carriers or something, a reality show, and that he was one of the pilots that was featured on this reality show about the United States Navy. I think it was Carrier Pilots or whatever, Carrier Pilots' Wives. The wives of pilots. I don't know what, but so I was able to go back and look at the clips of Fravor on this TV show, landing at night on an aircraft carrier, night landing. These are big deals, right? Under stressful conditions, and him walking in and everybody applauding. And that's when I found out about David Fravor. And it was a year before that article, the Tic Tac, the Nimitz, that whole story was out in the public a good year before the New York Times article. Just nobody read it. It was
Zenza Bill says that the show was called Carrier. It was on PBS.
Okay. All right. See, I didn't know. I just went and watched the clips from Paco's website. But yeah. That's how I found out about David Fravor. Fravor to the public came out much later. I got it from Paco.
Thank you, Paco, for that. Yeah. But getting into our last person that is going to speak at this hearing July 26th at 10 a.m. EST is Dave Grusch. Now, he just came into the news a few months back, and he took the internet by storm. He really, really did, originally with the article that was written again by Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal that was published by The Debrief. And then NewsNation did an interview with him, specifically with Ross Coulthart. And there were two interviews, a short version and a long version. And he goes into detail in I would say in rough, vague detail here about what was going on behind the scenes. And the article that came out, it was titled "Intelligence Officials Say U.S. Has Retrieved Craft of Non-Human Origin." And a lot of people have stuck to that word when they think of David Grusch. They think of the term non-human origin versus like alien, extraterrestrial, so on and so forth. And this was obviously detailing David Grusch here, a former intelligence official turned whistleblower, and Grusch had provided classified information to Congress and the intelligence community inspector general regarding covert programs that have retrieved intact and partially intact craft of non-human origin. According to Grusch, the information he has provided has been illegally withheld from Congress, so he has filed a complaint alleging illegal retaliation for his disclosure, and other intelligence officials, both active and retired, have independently corroborated his information. Now, he is a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, served in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO. And then from 2019 to 2021, he was the reconnaissance officer's representative to the UAPTF, and he later became the NGA's co-lead for UAP analysis from 2021 to July of 2022. And that article, the original article, goes into a significant, much more detail, but many of you are probably very, very familiar with his story. We are not going to get too deep into it, but he's also going to speak at the hearing. What new information will he provide? I am not sure. This is a question that a lot of people in the community have, is that, we've heard these people, we've heard their stories. What's new? What are they going to bring that we haven't heard before? And it's not about new information, because when we want new information, that means one of two things. Either we want to be informed of something that we haven't been informed in, or we just want to be entertained. We want to stimulate the mind a little bit with new information, having it be rather egoic. But regardless on if they provide new information or not, that they are going to be under oath, to my understanding, and they're going to speak to what I would classify as pretty powerful people that make the laws, that can shift the conversation when it comes to the UFO phenomenon. So while it might not necessarily be super amazing for you and I, for your average person and for these congressmen, it's a really big deal no matter the information that they provide.
Okay. And we'll end on this note, everybody. At least I will. Here's the thing. Grusch has provided Congress, it's the House and the Senate, has provided the IG, his attorney, possibly the White House, classified documents. The document that has allowed him to say we have flying saucers and aliens on ice. So will Tim Burchett at this, it's not about Grusch, right? Will the responsibility, Grusch has done his job. By him speaking out, we are having this hearing. He's done his job. He's done his job.
That's right.
So Grusch never said, dude, I got a briefcase full of secret documents and videos. He's never said that. He's never said, I've got an alien body in the freezer in my garage. He hasn't said this.
At least not yet.
Right, not yet. But he has provided this documentation to the House. And will Tim Burchett, and I expect him to do this, say, okay, you gave me this document. It says backwards engineering of a craft at Lockheed Skunk Works in Palmdale, California. Is this the document that you gave me? Yes, it is. Let's talk about this document. That's what I'm talking. Is it the evidence that was provided? Are we going to put this all out on the table and have it discussed? What is it that Grusch was told? What is it that Grusch had seen? What is it that Grusch has touched? I asked an attorney this on the show. Legally, what is considered firsthand? Okay? Firsthand, you see something. You're a firsthand witness, right? Somebody tells you that they saw something, you're secondhand. If you have a classified document in your hand, what is that? That's firsthand. That's not secondhand. You're holding the classified document. Somebody didn't tell you that they read or they saw a classified document. That's secondhand. So David Grusch is a firsthand witness. So I would anticipate a certain level. I don't know what they're going to protect, but I would expect a certain amount of reveal of the evidence from the witness to be spoken about and identified. Is this the document that you showed me? Is this the document that you gave me? Is this the document that you saw? Okay, let's go through it. That is what we can expect at the hearing. And if that goes down, Cristina, vodka shots on Fade to Black. I ain't playing around. I got alien head vodka, a green alien
And
head
we
vodka.
can
on
also
ice.
we can also assume here there's going to be the public hearing and a closed door hearing, which I'm going to be a bit sad if that's true.
I hope they don't do that.
I hope not either, but just off of last year's hearing, I can be in the assumption that it could happen again this year. Now, do we have information on that? Not yet. We are not sure if there's going to be a closed door meeting or not after the public hearing. But we can stay optimistic.
Yeah, this is not about Russians or Chinese. No, this is not what this is about. There's no reason to have a classified. You can have a classified hearing about that. This hearing is about UFOs, aliens, and ETs and contact. That's what this is about. All right. Now, what Burchett's point is to make this public.
That's right.
You can't turn around and make it public if you have a classified hearing. Well, yeah, we got the secret stuff about an hour ago. Well, then what's the purpose of it? That's not what Tim Burchett is about. So here we go. Like I said, David Grusch did his job. I was so tired of hearing, where's the evidence, man? Where's it? That's not what people. Grusch said, I'm giving this to you. Right.
But people always want more. They're so demanding.
I'm telling you what we have. Now it's your job to go and run. Now the Senate knows. The White House knows. Apparently Biden said, yeah, UFOs are a concern of the Oval Office. That's a pretty heavy statement. And so he's got the attention of Congress. Both houses. He's got the attention of the White House. He certainly has the attention of the media, and the lack of knowledge, I think, from senators and representatives, the congressmen and women, of this subject, where they are being completely caught by surprise when they are the ones that approve the budgets and do everything and keep this country running and write the laws and do everything that they're supposed to do as a government, keep the streets paved and things like that. Right? Okay, that's their job. They're supposed to know everything, and apparently they don't. And this has lit the fires that were never supposed to have been lit, but they are now. So it's going to be great. Cristina, what time do you and I go live? When does this thing start?
So the UFO witness hearing will take place July 26th at 10 a.m. EST, which is 7 a.m. PST. So make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you do not miss the hearing and the post commentary as well, because we will be streaming it live right here. Jimmy, thank you so much for today's conversation, sharing your insights as you always do. I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you tonight on Fade to Black.
Fantastic. What a great show. I think this was a great foundation to talk about everything that's happened in the conversation of UFOs since 2017, where it really began to take off. If you enjoyed what you heard today, hit the like button. It lets us know that you enjoyed the show. And of course, it lets YouTube know that you want some more UFO transparency as well. Tomorrow is Strange Weekly News at 3 p.m. PST, where I'll be covering all the strange news and mysterious headlines from around the world. You do not want to miss that. It's always a lot of fun. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies for all of my updates and news. Also follow me on Instagram at Strange Paradigms for pictures and reels, but definitely come over to the Discord server. Hides did create an event for an hour after this that we're doing right now called Experiencers Night. Please put that link again, Hides, if you can, so people can join with 2,000 other like-minded people. Share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, and more. If you enjoyed everything that you see on this channel, consider being a Patreon supporter. All the funding goes straight to the channel, to Puck the Puck Wedgie, and to the RV Fund, where I'll be traveling the United States, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots. I want to say thank you to everyone that watched this live, all the super chats, super stickers, YouTube members, Patreon supporters, my amazing mods as well. I simply could not do this show without you. I will see all of you tomorrow. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.